Imagine standing at the edge of your greatest desire, the love, connection, and happiness you've longed for, but feeling something inside that pulls you back. Have you ever wondered why we yearn for closeness, yet sometimes resist it when it's within our reach? What if the reasons aren't as simple as they seem? What if our deeper fears, our untold stories, and our invisible wounds shape the choices we make? Today, I invite you on a journey into the heart of these hidden forces. Together, let's uncover the unseen barriers that keep us from the love and joy we all deserve. Sometimes what keeps us from reaching out isn't rejection or pride. It's something far more invisible, far more powerful. It's the part of us we've locked away, forgotten, or never even faced. This is known as shadow projection, and it's one of the most misunderstood forces shaping human behavior. Imagine someone truly wants to connect with you. They think about you. They remember the warmth of your voice, the comfort of your presence. But they don't act. Why? Because something inside them has begun to project their own fears, flaws, and shame onto you. Not because you've done anything wrong, but because the shadow within them has awakened. This shadow is not evil, it's wounded. It holds all the parts of themselves they were taught to hide. Fear of abandonment, guilt from past failures, fear of not being enough. These feelings, left unresolved, start to color how they see you. Without knowing it, they may begin to associate you with their deepest fears. What if I'm rejected again? What if I mess it up? What if I'm not worthy of love? These questions don't come from truth, they come from pain. Let's pause here. Take a breath, reset your focus. This isn't just about them, it's about all of us. How often have we stopped ourselves from reaching for joy because of invisible fears? How many times have we traded happiness for safety? If we want to live wisely, if we crave intelligent joy and real connection, we must start recognizing these hidden patterns. The key to a happy life is not always in taking massive action. It's in uncovering the quiet forces that steer us when we are not paying attention. Because once we see the shadow, it loses its power, and in its place, clarity, courage, freedom. Let's be honest, desire is rarely the issue. Wanting someone, thinking about them, even loving them from afar, those feelings come naturally. But acting on them, reaching out, opening the door to connection, that's where so many people freeze. Not because they don't care, but because they're terrified of being seen. Vulnerability is the space where true connection lives, but it's also the space where we feel the most exposed. To reach out to someone you desire means lowering your shield. It means saying, here I am, I care. And for many, that's the scariest thing imaginable. Why? Because once we are open, we can be rejected. And for the human heart, rejection doesn't just sting, it threatens our sense of worth. In a world that rewards control, perfection, and keeping it together, vulnerability feels like a risk too big to take. So instead, people stay silent, they wait, they pull back, not because they don't feel, but because feeling out loud is terrifying. Take a moment right now, reset your mind, breathe in, ask yourself, how many beautiful experiences have you avoided, not because they weren't available, but because vulnerability felt too risky? If you're someone who wants to live a wiser, more fulfilling life, this is where the work begins, not just in becoming smarter, but braver. Because vulnerability isn't weakness, it's courage in motion. It's the heartbeat of intimacy. And the happiest people aren't the ones who never feel fear. They're the ones who feel it and still move forward. So remember, if someone hasn't reached out, it may not be a lack of desire. It may be the overwhelming fear of being seen, loved, and possibly hurt. But behind that fear, there's always a longing for connection, a longing for happiness. There's a kind of silence that isn't caused by apathy. It's born from fear, a deep, quiet fear of being seen for who we truly are. This is the fear of vulnerability, and is one of the most powerful reasons why someone may desperately want to reach out to you and yet never does. Vulnerability means stepping into the unknown without armor. It means saying, I care about you without knowing how the other person will respond. For many adults today, especially those between 25 and 54, juggling careers, relationships, past heartbreaks, and future hopes, this feels like too much to risk. Because what if they open up and you don't feel the same? What if their desire is met with silence? What if love is not enough? Let's pause here, take a moment. Breathe in, breathe out. This is important. You see, our culture often teaches us to chase happiness by staying in control. But real happiness, the deep, soul-feeling kind, comes when we let go of control and allow ourselves to be vulnerable. It comes when we risk the very thing we're afraid of because we know that the reward, true connection, is worth it. So, when someone stays silent despite longing for you, it may not be a lack of feeling. It may be that their heart is fighting a silent war, the desire to connect versus the terror of being hurt, and sometimes fear wins. If you want to live a wise, intelligent, joy-filled life, you must understand this. Vulnerability isn't a weakness, it's a doorway. And the people who walk through it are the ones who find love, purpose, and the kind of happiness that doesn't fade. There is a hidden belief that often holds people back from reaching out, even when their heart is full of longing. It's not that they don't want to connect with you. It's that somewhere deep inside, they believe they don't deserve to. This is known as the complex of inferiority, and it silently shapes how people show up, or don't, in love and life. This complex isn't always loud. It doesn't shout, it whispers. It says things like, you're not good enough for them. They'll see your flaws eventually. Why would someone like that choose someone like you? These thoughts don't come from truth. They come from wounds. And they form early, sometimes from childhood experience, failures, or toxic relationships that made someone feel less. Here's a moment to pause, reset your attention, let this land. Now think about how many beautiful, joyful, life-changing relationships are lost. Not because the love wasn't there, but because someone couldn't believe they were worthy of it. How many opportunities for happiness slipped by because someone internalized a lie that said they don't measure up. If you're someone seeking wisdom, growth, and a life rich with happiness, recognize this pattern, not just in others, but maybe even in yourself. The complex of inferiority thrives in silence. It grows in the shadows. But when brought into the light, it loses its grip. The truth is, no one is perfect. But love, connection, and joy aren't reserved for the perfect. They are meant for the real, the brave, the open-hearted. And often, the only thing standing between a person and a happy life is the belief that they don't deserve one. That belief can be unlearned, and once it is, everything changes. In the modern world, we are all wearing masks, not out of deception, but out of survival. We learn early on how to present ourselves in ways that win approval, gain respect, and keep us safe. This social mask is known as the persona. It's the version of us that fits in. But behind that persona lives the true self, the real, raw, unfiltered essence of who we are. Now imagine someone wants to connect with you deeply, but the version of themselves they show the world is polished, guarded, and composed. Their true self, the one that holds the longing, the love, the desire, is hidden behind layers of control. And here lies the inner conflict. The persona says, reach out, while the true self whispers, reach out. The result? Silence, distance, confusion. Let's pause right here, take a deep breath, reset your focus. This isn't just about them, it's about all of us. So many people are stuck in this invisible tug-of-war between who they think they should be and who they really are. The persona is afraid of rejection. The true self is afraid of never being seen. And when those two parts clash, it's easier to retreat than to risk the pain of vulnerability. But here's the truth. Happiness doesn't live in the mask. It lives in authenticity. It lives in moments where we dare to show up as ourselves, imperfect, real, and open. If someone hasn't reached out to you, it may be because they haven't yet found the courage to break free from the version of themselves they've been told to be. To live wisely and joyfully means recognizing this conflict and choosing truth over image, because in that choice, freedom begins, and with freedom comes real happiness. Sometimes the biggest barrier to happiness and connection isn't external, it's internal. Imagine this: someone wants to reach out, they crave a meaningful relationship, but something inside them holds them back. They might not even understand why. This is the power of unconscious sabotage. Unconscious sabotage is when your mind, without you realizing it, works against your best interests. It's when your deepest fears, insecurities, and past wounds set up invisible walls between you and what you truly desire. The person who longs to connect with you might be trapped in a cycle of self-protection, a pattern of avoiding closeness to prevent the risk of pain. They might feel that love, though deeply desired, is ultimately something that will bring disappointment or hurt. So, without knowing it, they pull away at the very moment they should lean in. Take a moment here, pause and breathe. Reflect on how often we unknowingly protect ourselves from happiness, even when it's right in front of us. This kind of sabotage isn't always obvious. It's subtle. It manifests as procrastination, distraction, or emotional withdrawal. It says, "I'm not ready," or "I'll wait until it's perfect." But in truth, it's fear masquerading as caution. And the longer it goes unaddressed, the more it convinces us that we're safer in isolation than in connection. If you want to live wisely and fully, you must understand this: your mind can be your greatest ally or your fiercest enemy. Recognizing unconscious sabotage is the first step to freedom. When you become aware of the patterns that hold you back, you can choose a different path. You can choose courage over fear, connection over isolation, and ultimately happiness over self-imposed limitation. Have you ever felt like your past keeps creeping into your present, shaping the way you respond to others? It's not just memories, it's something deeper. It's archetypal wounding, a profound wound created by past relationships, particularly those with primary figures like parents, caregivers, or significant past lovers. These early wounds, though often invisible, shape how we approach love, connection, and our own sense of worth. Imagine someone who wants to reach out to you, but something in them pulls back. They feel an overwhelming fear that their needs will be ignored, or worse, that they'll be abandoned. This is often rooted in an archetypal wound, a pattern from the past that tells them, "Love is not safe," or "I will be hurt again." These wounds are not just stories from childhood. They are deeply ingrained emotional imprints that replay throughout our lives, shaping who we trust and how we love. Let's pause for a moment. Breathe in, breathe out. Consider how many times you've avoided vulnerability or held back from something beautiful because of an invisible fear tied to past pain. When someone has been deeply wounded by early attachments, they unconsciously protect themselves from further harm. So even though they desire connection, they keep you at arm's length. It's a form of self-preservation, a belief that love might repeat the same painful patterns of the past. This cycle can keep them from reaching out, not because they don't care, but because they fear their own hurt. If you want to live a wise and fulfilled life, understanding archetypal wounds is essential. Recognize them for what they are, patterns that, though painful, are not definitive of your future. The path to happiness begins when you can see these wounds clearly, allowing yourself to heal and to step forward into the kind of love and connection that you deserve. At some point in life, we all go through a deep transformation. It's not a simple change of routine or circumstances. It's a fundamental shift in how we see ourselves and the world around us. This is called an individuation crisis. During this time, we are forced to confront our true selves, shedding old identities and beliefs to make space for who we are meant to be. Imagine someone who desires a connection with you, but isn't able to act on it. It's not that they don't feel, but that they are in the midst of a personal transformation. They might be struggling with understanding who they really are, what they truly want, and how they fit into the larger picture of their life. In these moments, the person may pull back from external relationships to focus inward as they try to untangle the complexities of their evolving identity. Pause for a moment. Reflect on how often we're told to have everything figured out by a certain age. But true wisdom comes when we allow ourselves the grace to evolve, to change, and to question our past assumptions. During an individuation crisis, the need for self-discovery can be all-consuming. People often retreat from relationships not because they don't care, but because they need time to integrate the parts of themselves they've neglected or never fully understood. The process is essential for growth, and though it may seem like withdrawal, it's often a sign of someone on the path to becoming their truest self. If you desire a life of deep happiness and wisdom, it's important to understand that transformation often requires space. The person who hasn't reached out may simply be in the throes of finding themselves, and when they do, they'll be ready to show up with authenticity and strength. You too are invited to embrace the journey of self-discovery, allowing yourself to grow into the person you are meant to be. Change is one of the most profound forces in our lives. It offers new possibilities, new paths, and new connections. Yet, despite its potential for growth and happiness, it often feels terrifying. This fear of the unknown is a powerful force that keeps many people stuck, even when they long for something more. Imagine someone who desires to reach out to you but pulls back. They may feel drawn to you, but the thought of what a new connection could mean, emotionally, physically, or even mentally, fulfills them with anxiety. The fear isn't that they don't want you, but that they are unsure of what the future holds. The unknown is always a place of uncertainty, and for some it can be overwhelming. Let's pause for a moment, take a breath, reset your focus. We live in a world that often values predictability and control. The unknown disrupts our comfort zone, and when we're pushed to face uncertainty, we tend to pull back. But here's the truth. True happiness, real joy, and deep connection are born in the unknown. It's in taking the risk, stepping into something uncharted, and embracing what could be, rather than staying stagnant in what we already know. For those who hold back, it's not that they don't crave happiness or closeness. It's that the fear of what lies ahead clouds the judgment. The potential for emotional vulnerability, the possible change in their life's trajectory, can make them freeze. Even if they yearn for something deeper, if you want to live a wise and intelligent life, you must understand this truth. Growth happens when we embrace the unknown. Yes, it's scary. Yes, it's uncertain. But it's also where transformation lies. The person who hasn't reached out may simply be facing a fear of what change could bring. And sometimes we all need to remind ourselves that happiness doesn't live in comfort. It lives in the courage to face the unknown. Intimacy, the deep connection that comes when two people allow themselves to be truly seen, is something that many of us crave. But for some, the closer they get to love, the further they pull away. This is called attachment avoidance, and it's a deeply ingrained fear that can keep people from forming the very relationships they desire most. Imagine someone who wants to connect with you, who may even feel a strong attraction, but they back away when things start to get too close. They may want your affection, your time, your love, but the moment intimacy begins to build, they feel a surge of anxiety. Their instinct is to retreat, to protect themselves from getting too close. The fear of being vulnerable, of opening up completely, feels like too much to bear. Take a moment, reset your focus. Think about the relationships in your life where fear of intimacy might have shown up, whether in your own behavior or in others. Attachment avoidance often stems from early experiences of either neglect or overdependence, creating a warped sense of what love and closeness should look like. Those who struggle with it may have learned that getting too close to someone could lead to emotional suffocation or, conversely, abandonment. As a result, they create emotional walls to protect themselves from being hurt. Yet these walls also keep out the very love and happiness they long for. If you want to live a wise and fulfilling life, it's essential to understand this pattern not just in others but in yourself. Attachment avoidance may be a protective mechanism, but it also robs us of true connection and happiness. True intimacy requires risk, openness, and the willingness to face vulnerability, and only by confronting our fear of closeness can we ever hope to experience the deep, joyful connections that life has to offer. Control. It's something most of us seek in our lives. We want control over our careers, our health, our environment, and yes, even our relationships. It gives us a sense of safety, predictability, and peace. But sometimes the very need for control can block us from the connections and happiness we truly desire. Imagine someone who longs to be close to you, to share their life with you, but as soon as they start feeling vulnerable, they pull away. The closer they get to you, the more intense their desire for control becomes. They may not realize it, but their fear of losing control over their emotions, their future, or the relationship itself is pushing them to distance themselves from what they want most. Take a breath, reset your focus for a moment. Think about the times in your life when the need for control held you back, when you feared that letting go, even just a little, would lead to chaos, unpredictability, or pain. This fear of losing control often stems from past experiences where vulnerability led to hurt or disappointment. In these cases, people create emotional barriers to safeguard themselves. They convince themselves that if they stay in control, they'll avoid heartache. But what they often fail to realize is that true happiness and connection come not from control, but from surrendering to the natural flow of relationships. By opening up, they allow themselves to experience the richness of human connection, the joy, the love, the vulnerability, without the weight of fear holding them back. If you want to live a wise, fulfilling life, acknowledge this. Happiness often requires us to give up the need for perfect control. True peace comes from letting go, from trusting that life will unfold as it should. And when you can embrace this, you'll discover that the happiness and deep connections you've been craving are already within reach. It's a strange paradox. We often want the very things we push away. We crave love, success, and happiness. Yet sometimes, without even realizing it, we sabotage our chances of achieving them. This is the quiet power of self-sabotage, an unconscious pattern of behavior that holds us back from the very life we desire. Imagine someone who has deep feelings for you but finds themselves pulling away. They might start avoiding you, overthinking everything, or convincing themselves they're not worthy of your love. These are all forms of self-sabotage. They may not want to hurt you, but the root cause lies in their own inner conflict. Perhaps they believe they don't deserve happiness, or they're afraid that getting too close will lead to disappointment. Without realizing it, they sabotage the connection before it has a chance to grow. Take a deep breath, reset your attention. Now think about how self-sabotage shows up in your own life. Those moments when you held back from something great, when fear or doubt led you to avoid what could have brought you joy. Self-sabotage often comes from deep-seated beliefs that we're not good enough, that we don't deserve success, or that happiness is fleeting. It may stem from past failures, childhood wounds, or negative self-talk. But here's the important truth. This behavior isn't the result of a conscious choice. It's a defense mechanism. It's your mind protecting you from potential hurt, disappointment, or failure. However, if you want to live a wise and fulfilling life, you must recognize that this pattern is holding you back from true happiness. The first step to breaking free is awareness. Once you see the ways in which you sabotage yourself, you can choose a different path, one where you step into the life, love, and joy you've always deserved. Vulnerability. This word alone can send shivers down the spine of even the most emotionally intelligent among us. It's one of the most powerful forces that shape our interactions, yet it's also one of the most misunderstood. The fear of vulnerability can keep us from reaching out to others, even when we long to connect. Imagine someone who deeply cares for you, yet they hesitate to make the first move. Despite their desire to be close, they hold back. This is often a result of fear of being vulnerable, a deep-rooted fear that to truly open up to someone means exposing ourselves to pain, rejection, or loss. It's not that they don't want you in their life, but that the thought of putting their heart on the line feels too risky. Take a moment to reset your focus, breathe in deeply. How often have you pulled back from an opportunity because you feared being vulnerable? How often have you shut your heart off to avoid the possibility of hurt? This fear comes from the core of human experience. We all want to be loved and accepted for who we truly are, but vulnerability requires us to expose our authentic selves, flaws, imperfections, and all. It's in these moments of exposure that we feel most alive, yet they are also the times when we feel most exposed to pain. However, the truth is that vulnerability is not a weakness. It is a strength. It is only through allowing ourselves to be vulnerable that we can build deeper, more meaningful connections. The person who is afraid to reach out may be guarding their heart, afraid of what opening it up might lead to. But if you want to live a life full of happiness, wisdom, and authentic relationships, vulnerability is the key. True connection comes when you dare to show up as your real imperfect self, and when you allow others to do the same. The reasons someone may not reach out despite their desire for connection are complex and deeply rooted in personal fears, insecurities, and past experiences. Understanding these psychological patterns, whether it's the fear of vulnerability, self-sabotage, or attachment issues, helps us approach relationships with more compassion and awareness. By recognizing these forces within ourselves and others, we open the door to deeper connection, authentic love, and true happiness. Thank you for your time and attention today. May you embrace the wisdom to understand both yourself and others, and may you step into a life full of love, happiness, and meaningful connections. Good luck on your journey.